So I don't think Tulsi Gabbard is going to join the Libertarian Party. I don't know if she's even going to be involved in electoral politics. I don't know if she's going to run for anything. She's certainly vocal on the scene. She did another interview with Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, the guy who was a Republican for a long time, who was always threatening to pull the trigger and do something just groundbreaking, but always just stepped away from it at the last moment. I mean, he always was up to something. He was always making some really great speech on the floor of the House of Representatives. But then when push came to shove, none of those things actually really happened. He was this bait and switch kind of guy, ratchet up the rhetoric and then just walk away from it, making his point, thinking that that was going to be as good as voting for something or starting some type of caucus or coalition of people, getting them all together, the Liberty Caucus, or whatever you want to call it, and say, look, this is what we need to do. And I like Trey Gowdy, but I don't trust Trey Gowdy. All right. Tulsi Gabbard, I trust far more than Trey Gowdy. Listening to Tulsi Gabbard, though, you got to wonder where she's at politically. She's still a Democrat. She's not going to reform her party. There's no way. Her party is going bonkers. They're going off a cliff. And from just a political forecasting point of view here in the year 2021, in the month of March, I can say with a lot of confidence that I do believe the Democratic Party will lose the House of Representatives in 2022. And they may lose bigly, as Donald Trump would say. All right. Same with the Senate. There's a good chance that they're going to lose the United States Senate. It's a 50-50 split technically right now. And if states actually do shore up their voter integrity laws, I do believe that it's going to be tough for people to work around that this time. I think people are watching where they weren't watching before. And that's really, by the way, if you're looking on a purely political basis, that was a huge failure of the Trump campaign for president, is that they didn't prepare for this. And after what happened in 2016 with a narrow victory and basically them saying, well, this guy's illegitimate, and for 4 years found different things to go after that had no real significance. But certainly all of that stuff was great for the news cycle, right? Hearing it over and over again on the news for the people that wanted that red meat of TDS every day. And they got it, they got it. But Tulsi Gabbard to me sounds as if she's trying to do something outside of politics. I think after her performance in Congress, which was admirable, I mean, putting out bills that were very controversial, that, you did have a few co-sponsors out there, but honestly didn't go anywhere. The reason they didn't go anywhere is because Congress, all of them, don't agree with most of that stuff. Most of that stuff had to do with the people, what the people wanted, not what the lobbyists or big business or whoever. You go down a list of things that have a larger influence right now on Congress, including the Federal Reserve, by the way, who the Congress is now using as a piggy bank to placate people rather than trying to help people find employment or do some long-term investment in things that will create jobs. Instead, we're just going to throw piles of money at people. And people will remember when the president gave me $1,400? But I should vote for that. And then that's like giving them permission to go over to Syria and start dropping bombs, or wherever. Because people don't realize that there are consequences, like your gas prices now are up about 80 to 90 cents a gallon in some places like California. They're up over $1 from where they were back in January, early January, in December. Yeah, no, and don't give me this crap about, oh, they're reformulating the gas for the summer. It's March, okay? The summer driving season doesn't kick in until like May or June. So you got to kind of, observe the facts on the ground here. This has more to do with stupid policies and regulations, and yes, speculators, and the fact that we're going to be buying our crude oil again from Saudi Arabia. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather not buy my oil from nations that don't either like us or just want to make lots of money off of us and exploit us. And yes, I do believe in renewable energy or alternative forms of energy, but from a technological standpoint, we are not there yet. And that's something that the greenies need to cope with. Because what happened in Texas was largely a result of, investing in these technologies that aren't really, shall we say, consistent. All right. They don't work all the time. And, as the infrastructure and the population and everything seems to grow, and we're not ready at that level, then it's whoever was responsible for that needs probably to be put in jail or something. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people in Texas it wasn't just inconvenienced. People were freezing to death in Texas. So that's a big issue. And it does show, I heard a lot of commentators saying, well, good, Texas, they deserve that because they're Neanderthal in their thinking, right? Neanderthals, that's what they were called. This is the political divide, and this is where Tulsi Gabbard could be effective if she was to get into the game to try to unite people. But I think the problem is the system is going to eat her up and spit her out. And I don't mean it because I think, in other words, I mean it in the way that I just don't think she's got that spirit of anger and frustration. And she's a nice person. And I've said this before, I think she's too nice for politics. And I think maybe she's trying to build something. She's trying to do a workaround where she influences, she has an organization. People realize that she's the real deal. They flock to the organization. They donate, they contribute, they build her movement. But what is her movement going to do? I mean, I'm questioning the Libertarian Party again, because the more I look into things, the more I say, you're better off trying to infiltrate the Republican Party or, God forbid, the Democratic Party. I mean, if you're truly progressive and you want to do populist progressivism, your best bet is to run against an establishment Democrat and try to beat them. And I think let the people hear your message. And of course, the system is kind of, shall we say, slanted or rigged against the people who come in and who are true outsiders and who aren't going to run to lobbyists and who aren't going to run to big donors and super PACs and so forth. I mean, this is the system we have. But I do think you can beat an establishment politician. I mean, technically that's what AOC did, right? And, now she's an establishment politician. She's her own brand. She does her own grandstanding. She does her own photo opping. I mean, when I say photo opping, I mean just ridiculous things that have nothing to do with, it's almost like she wants to be on the cover of Glamour magazine rather than fight these hard battles. And if you like her brand of politics, keep in mind, she ain't the real deal. Bernie wasn't the real deal. AOC is not the real deal. Tulsi is the real deal because she could get things done because she's not a lunatic. Like I used to say on Twitter, she's not so crazy when she speaks that you say, okay, anything else she says at this point, I'm just not going to listen to, right? But for those who are more red-pilled, who are either kind of conservative or kind of libertarian, this stuff, a lot of people are just so frustrated, and they're trying to go down. You've got a giant highway and you say, okay, well, here's an exit up ahead. We're going to all go off at this exit. Most of the people are going to keep driving down that highway. And you're thinking to yourself, how do I get these people off this highway? You can't. Not in the numbers that you need to actually start a movement. You can't do that. So, that old adage, you can either beat them or join them, right? At this point, you got to join them, and you got to find the common ground between you and them, and then try to be persuasive inside that movement and say, hey, it would be kind of cool if we just got rid of the Federal Reserve. And I think you'd have a lot of support in there. This isn't 2004 anymore. I know people who say, well, look what they did to Ron Paul. Look what they did back in 2004 to the Dixie Chicks or something. And I'm like, that's 2004. If anything, the Dixie Chicks, they succeeded in a way, even though they were ruined for a while. They're still around, by the way, but they got people thinking about those issues. They didn't, embrace this blind patriotism that says, oh, if we go to war, everybody's got to support. And that was the thing that they pushed, especially the two Bush guys. Bush Sr., oh, we got to go in and we got to free Kuwait. Really? I don't know where Kuwait is. Can you explain that to me? And then, the son is, we've got to fight the terrorists over there so we don't have to fight the terrorists over here. And people bought that. But people ain't buying that anymore because we've been fighting the terrorists over there now for how many years? And we need to bring boys home now. Our job, mission accomplished. So trying to do a George W. Bush, it isn't working out. I think Tulsi Gabbard was a threat to everything because she was so articulate, and she still is. She's attractive as a person. Her demeanor is very conciliatory, even to people who she disagrees with. The fact that she could endorse Joe Biden for president, and then looking at his ramped up, supercharged policies in Syria and Iran and Venezuela, I know it's full steam ahead. See, the neocons don't care about all the cultural Marxism. All they care about is, do we get to use our weapons, and when can we start bombing? That's really what they're concerned about. Same thing with Raytheon. They don't care a bunch of woke people showed up at their door to protest whatever. And those woke people aren't protesting that. They're protesting things that have been going on now, at least for 2 or 3 years, that again are just dividing people by race and gender and all this stuff. And meanwhile, again, you could be protesting something where people's lives are in danger. And this is where Tulsi Gabbard was kind of good at boiling it down and sort of condensing it to where, okay, what's truly important here? Those things over here, they're important to a minority of people. These other things over here are important on a global scale. So I find it interesting that Tulsi is out there a lot, though. She's definitely not refusing interviews. She's on Fox News a lot because if she goes on MSNBC or CNN, she's going to get destroyed over there. And I think that's horrible. But that shows you that Tulsi Gabbard is definitely red-pilled. She's a Democrat, but she's a red-pilled Democrat. And I think what she should do fairly soon, and I don't know if there's a timeline for, but even if she just became an independent, I would so respect that at this stage. Look, both political parties are kind of failing us. She has more friends on the right than she has on the left, that's for sure. Or people who are, again, red-pilled, but not maybe conservative red-pilled. There's so many definitions and labels now that it's really hard to kind of figure it all out. But I'm waiting. I'm hoping maybe she'll just continue to build her organization and people will realize that we need something fresh, new, and different. I don't think she's going to become a libertarian. The libertarians would have to get more mainstream and more serious and put down, the chess set for a while and figure out, okay, do we want to get people coming into this party, or do we want to be our own little niche? And then we can tell everybody, well, the two parties stink, and they do. And I voted for someone else, and that's great. But did they win? The answer is probably no, they didn't win. And the reason they didn't win is because nobody is really interested. Nobody really cares. So you've got to go from not caring to caring. And yes, you need somebody who's like a Tulsi Gabbard or somebody very high profile. Joe Rogan could run as a libertarian, and I think he would do really well. I don't know if he'd win, but he would do well. He would get people involved, and he would espouse good principles. But a lot of libertarians today are kind of, looking down their noses at everybody, saying, well, I'm way better than you, and our ideas are better. And they are better. But is it a mainstream movement? Not yet. Could it be? I don't know. That's the thing where I'm at right now. I just don't know.